Hey, book community. Welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing a first for me. Today is going to be my first book review, and the book that I'm going to be reviewing is The Way of Edan by Philip Chase. Now, this is probably my most anticipated book of 2023. I've been excited to read it, and now I've been excited to review it. I'm not entirely sure how this is going to go, being my first review. I have some notes here, but let's go. Let's see how it's gonna come out. Anyway, so The Way of Edan. The first thing I want to talk about in this is the world building. Very good world building. So I'll just show you something here in the beginning of the book. If I can have the page turn, there it is. The map, a very beautiful map of the world that he has here, this particular continent anyway. I know Philip's proud of that map. He should be, because it's beautiful. And so he spends a lot of time building this world, showing us from city to city, all of these places that's in this world. And the names are unique. Sometimes the names in the book you may or may not be able to pronounce. I had some trouble with some of them, but still very good. With the world building, the places that he told you about seemed real. It seemed familiar. Everything came together, and he expands as he goes forward. And I know this is just the first book of his trilogy, and so I'm sure there's going to be more world building to come, and I can't wait to see that. So he does a very good job with world building. Again, very familiar geography, very familiar cities, the way he describes them. I always love in some of these more classic fantasies how it describes a young character coming to a new place. He was a farm boy. He grew up in the country, kind of like myself, and then he goes into the big city, and he's just amazed at everything he sees. Had never seen buildings that big. He really does a beautiful job at describing those things in this book. But not only the world building, but also the plot. The plot was very good. The plot was centered really around religion and about one particular religion, the Way of Edan, who wanted to expand and really conquer everybody else, I guess you could say. So the religions in this book, one of the reasons I really liked it is because it seems familiar. On my top shelf here, you'll see this is where I keep my Brandon Sanderson books. And in his book, he likes to talk about religion. And so this isn't a new thing with Philip. However, I feel like as I was reading about the Way of Edan, that it seemed more familiar. It seemed more something that I understand, something that I can relate to in the religion that he's building here in this particular book. It really reminded me of things I've learned in history, like the Crusades, as well as maybe the Inquisition and things of that nature. So I was able to connect with that and kind of understand where he was coming from. There is a scene in this book where they're doing a worship service. It's on a special day, a holiday, if you will. And in this, he describes this worship service that they're doing, and it really seems like some parts of it, worship services that I've been a part of, as far as a call and a response. You see that. And also there's a sort of a strange communion service. And so that was very interesting to read about. I had mentioned on Twitter about that particular chapter that was probably my favorite chapter in the whole book. And it was. I loved what he did there. And so the plot is taking this religion, the Way of Edan, and they're trying to conquer the world. And you have a hero who is... well, he doesn't start off as a hero. You don't really know that, but kind of, you would say almost a chosen one type trope, maybe. It seems like where he's going with that. The boy's name is Day Raven. And Day Raven, of course, I love that name. I love the name Day Raven. Day Raven is sent off on a quest, you could say. And so in his quest, now here's my one thing that I probably didn't like so much. Just a small thing. He set off on a quest to do something, and I'm trying not to give away any spoilers. And then something happens. He meets somebody, and then his quest changes. He decides to go a different direction. And with that, I thought that maybe that was rushed a little bit. However, it was needful, as you see towards the end of the book, it was needful to get to that place, but it may have been a little rushed. But it was still okay. It still didn't diminish my enjoyment of the book at all. So it was a very good plot to the book. Then the characters. I enjoyed what Philip did with the characters in this book. And the reason I say that, now I have just finished reading the Farseer trilogy, Robin Hobb, and Live Ship, the first book of Live Ship, Ship of Magic. And everybody knows who is familiar with Robin Hobb how well she does characters. I'm not going to try to compare what Philip does to what Robin Hobb does. I don't think that would be fair to Philip, and I don't think that's just not who Philip is. However, I had no problem with the character work that Philip did. In fact, I was connected with nearly every character that Philip introduced in this book. I was connected with them. I cared about them. I wanted to see where they were going. And hey, that's the biggest part to me. That's important to me. If you can make me care about your characters, even side characters, he introduces more side characters towards the end of the book who kind of joins the group. If you can make me care about side characters who you haven't told me a whole lot about, you're doing a really good job with character work. And so that I can't say enough about what he did with the characters in this book. There's Dayraven. There's Dayraven's loyal friend Imhar. You have, I'm not sure how to pronounce, this is one of the ones I'm not sure how to pronounce, Urde. I said Urid. I'm not sure if someone can correct me if that's not right. I was saying Urid, who is a great aunt to Dayraven, and that was a character that I thought when she was first introduced that this isn't going to be a long-lasting character. This isn't someone I'm going to care too much about. But I was wrong. I ended up really enjoying the character of Urid. Then there was another character that's introduced a little bit later on, Sequara. And you follow her, what her particular journey is and how it ends up coming and meeting with Dayraven there towards the end. There is the Supreme Priest Bledna. I think Bledna is maybe going to be a misunderstood character in some ways. Seems evil, and there are plenty of things to see that is evil about him, but he is dedicated. Now, I'm not saying dedication doesn't excuse you from doing things wrong, but he truly believes in what he is saying. There's someone else who comes along as almost like a counselor who is trying to bend him to a different way, and you can tell he's not a believer. And so Bledna was a believer. He was dedicated. He was a zealot, really, and I enjoyed his character. Another thing I enjoyed about the story, when I'm reading a book and you have a lot of inner monologue, sometimes that bores me. Well, that wasn't the case here. I found myself enjoying so much the inner monologue of the character, especially the main character, Dayraven. It helped you to see deeper into why he was doing what he did. Of course, it always does that, but I think Philip really did well, which we know if you've read the book, and I hope you're going to read the book, but if you've already read the book, then you know that Philip's prose, his writing is beautiful, and so he was able to make all of this come alive. So I loved the inner monologue there, which really leads you into the magic system in this book. Now, I think you would probably not call this a hard magic system. It's a mysterious magic system. However, with this, something that, and I'm not going to say much about it, but what I do want to say about it is there is a connection of empathy. As the person is performing the magic, they're able to empathize with others around them. In fact, even if they're going to do something violent to them or kill them, you feel their pain. There's this scene where this is taking place, and the person who is about to be knocked off, the person who was doing the magic themselves was seeing his wife and what he felt about his wife, what he felt about his children, how he didn't want to die, and all of that. That was an interesting take on something like that. So it was very, very good. There's so much here to talk about, so much here to love, and I want to share this with others. I want others to take this book. I've already been talking to some of my personal friends this week, telling them when they get time, they need to check this book out. They need to buy it, and they need to read it because it is wonderful. In fact, I'm not just trying to gush. Of course, I don't know what the next two books are going to be like. Let's just say, for the heck of it, that they're not very good, which isn't going to happen. But let's just say they're not. This alone is probably going to be one of my favorite books of the year. And the more I think about it, it may become just a favorite book of mine. And so I cannot say enough about how much I enjoyed this book and how much I hope that other people experience this book. The Way of Edan by Philip Chase was such a wonderful experience. And I can't wait for the next two books. And I'm glad that we're not going to have to wait very long. I believe the second book's coming out in June and the third just some later on in the year. So be looking for that. And anyway, thank you for sharing this time with me. And until next time, go read books.